way back.
Back up, guys.
There we go.
Why don't we back up, guys?
Little space.
Between the video guys in front, why don't we all back up?
We're getting a great response this morning. I was out in front of PS 58, Carroll Gardens, that I served both as a member of my school board in Brooklyn and then as city council member. And first day of school, I dropped Dante off first, but then went over to PS 58, and great response from parents who obviously are really concerned about the future of schools, and a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of spontaneous enthusiasm for the notion of full-day pre-K and after-school programs, something that parents really want because it will make their lives better, it'll make their kids' lives better. They want something they can depend on, and they know how much it matters to their kids' future. So we got a great response this morning, and we're going to be all over the city today, and looking forward to seeing the voters. And with that, we welcome your questions.
Police Commissioner Ray Kelly has gone on to rant this morning saying that none of the candidates have asked for a terrorism briefing, and he said that people need to ask where you stand on such things as the role of the NYPD in protecting New York City from global terror. Who's responsible for this?
You know, I've worked with the NYPD in various capacities for 20 years, and I've said repeatedly that I believe fundamentally in maintaining our strong commitment to anti-terrorism work by the NYPD, keeping the force of anti-terrorism officers around the thousands that we now have. I think that's imperative. We did ask for a briefing back on August 29th. We made a phone request to the City Hall for a briefing on the serious situation. I'm looking forward to that.
Your poll number is sliding a little bit down. Do you think the attacks on you about your flip-flop stance are working on the voters?
We feel very good about where we stand. Every poll is a little different. Some polls include those who are leaning, some don't. We obviously first and foremost believe our own research, but second, you know, the old saying is true. The only poll that matters is the one tomorrow. What we're seeing around the city is a very enthusiastic response. And equally important, we have an extraordinary operation that's in gear right now, reaching out to voters. That's going to be very, very present tomorrow. So we're convinced that we're going to do very well, but as I've said repeatedly, we also assume that there's going to be a runoff.
Bill, what's your message for
the
voters?
last few days?
Whoa, one at a time.
Last night you were introduced by a rabbi who said that you had agreed to, I guess, eliminate any regulations on the okay, what is your actual?
You know, first of all, I didn't hear his exact quote, and what I've said is very clear and consistent. You know, when I was in the city council, I was chairman of the General Welfare Committee, as is well documented. I spent a lot of time working on the safety and well-being of children. I was chairman after the Mary Brown tragedy. I'm very focused on what we need to do to protect our children, and that's equally true when it comes to the issue of circumcision. I think we need a better approach to that, one that will help to protect the safety of our children. I don't think the current approach of just having a form is particularly high impact. So what I've said is I'll keep the form in place until we have a better approach. But I want to work with community leaders on something that we can all agree upon that respects religious tradition but also protects children. And I think we can do better.
Bill, on this side, please. On the LAPES donation, you said this morning that you gave back the money that he donated. What about his friends and family? Have you given back their money?
As far as I know, any family member of his, we've returned the donation as far as I know.
What about
Bill, what's
Saturday
your
hours
message
of
for
you
voters?
campaigning? What's your goal before voters get to the polls tomorrow?
Well, look, you know, throughout today and into tomorrow, I want to meet as many voters as I can, and you know, my campaign is calling and at subways and you name it. We're everywhere trying to, you know, have a final opportunity to spread our message to voters and convince them that it matters to vote. I mean, let's face it, in the end, sadly, most registered Democrats are not going to vote tomorrow, and every single person we can convince that it really matters to vote. Well, we want that for what we're trying to build, but we also, that's good for New York City. The more people that vote, the better for all of us.
Should the U.S. intervene in Syria? Would you
again?
like to see the U.S. airstrikes in Syria?
I think the president has approached this in the right way. I think, first of all, I give him immense respect for going to Congress. It's not an easy thing to do. The president really showed his belief in our system of checks and balances by going to Congress for authorization. And it's a healthy debate we need to have in this country. I think the president's core instinct here that a real violation of international law has occurred, violation of humanitarian values has occurred, and it must be responded to. I agree with that impulse. So I think he's starting from the right perspective, and I think he did the right thing to go to Congress, and I think we're going to have a very healthy debate on this.
Given the response you say you're getting from voters around the city as the election gets closer, why do you think there will be a run?
Well, I think as a matter of planning, first of all, you have to assume it. We're going to be ready to go first thing Wednesday morning. Obviously, it's 9/11, so there won't be a lot of traditional campaign activities, but in terms of our planning process, we'll be ready to go. I think the numbers are very positive, but you just can't be caught flat-footed. You have to go with the assumption that a runoff is the most likely outcome, and everyone on our team has to be ready for 3 weeks of intense work up until runoff day.
One or two more, please.
Mr. de
All right,
Blasio,
yeah.
you've been somewhat critical of some of the NYPD policies. How will you manage to change some of those policies as well as keep up the counterterrorism efforts?
There's no contradiction at all. I've spent a lot of time talking to cops on the beat and to precinct commanders. One of the great virtues of starting at the grassroots level in public service is you get a sense of the men and women in NYPD as they serve at the neighborhood level. When I was in the city council, I worked with 4 precincts, the 6-6, 7-2, 7-6, and 7-8, and got to know the precinct commanders very well over 8 years. And what I know is happening as a result of the mayor's approach and the commissioner's approach to stop and frisk is there's a de facto quota system. The officers, a typical police officer, does not like working under that system, does not find it productive for what they want to do to help make this city safe, what they've been trained to do. That system's counterproductive. What we need is very close working relationship between police and community. So my view is the reforms I want to make are going to make us safer in the long term, and they're going to bring police and community back together in every neighborhood. They're going to allow police officers and precinct commanders to do the work they know best to do. They're also going to continue to build our anti-terrorism efforts, because the best anti-terrorism work here and all over the world is based on intelligence gathering. Intelligence gathering is facilitated when there's a good working relationship between police and community. So I look forward to maintaining a strong commitment to our anti-terrorism efforts, but in fact building upon them through a community policing approach.